Hello. So, this is gonna sound very strange if you haven't even practiced self love just yet, because I don't think self love is one that is about the self. There's going to be a lot of contradictions in this, there's going to be a lot of nonsensicalness and a lot of beauty within my words, and a lot of truth and a bit of a grain of salt. So, let's talk about self love. Let's talk about the concept of what does self love mean? Well, I don't think it's what we aim for it to be. I think if you're like me and you haven't had the fortune to necessarily have role models that exhibit self-love very well, you have to find it off of a baseline that doesn't exist. You're working with the unknown. You're working with something that you don't know how to experience, and something that's hard to grasp in a society in which we encourage people to use comparison as the thief of joy. We use people. Like, what is that about? Who can you control? Last I checked, it's only you, love, only me. And we live in a society in which control is a huge aspect of any kind of baseline, and to teach people that they need some kind of external validation is ridiculous, because again, if you're not going to find that within somebody else by comparing yourself, by wishing you were taller, wishing you were more bodacious, wishing that you looked like fucking Angelina Jolie. She has good genetics. We don't all have the fortune. So I think that self-love is not one that has a specific vantage point. I don't think it's one that has a right or a wrong way to do it. I think that it's one that is more so about being inclusive, more so about being selfless, more so about finding the little things within other people that you like, within finding passion, within finding interest in hobbies and interest in life and all the experience itself, not even figuring out how to love oneself, because what does that even mean? Does that mean taking baths? Does that mean learning to have a healthy body image relationship? I don't know what that means. I'm saying this as somebody who was taught and imbued, we're gonna go with imbued to learn to hate themselves. Their first bully was their mother, their sociopathic parent, and to have that and society's projections of picking apart other people's flaws rather than raising their vibration, and rather than not critiquing them, but to see the beauty in those differences and to see the celebration of just being of this person in front of you, this person who maybe you have nothing in common with. And isn't that the experience itself, is to like push those boundaries and experience people whom maybe they have very different religious viewpoints than you, maybe they don't look anything like what you would define as someone of your inner circle. And maybe that's kind of the point itself, is that it's not about the self, but it's about being a little more selfless, aiming to hear people when they tell you what they want, and aiming to make the active, conscientious effort to be aligned with others, and to acknowledge that in order to be able to love a person as a whole, that you have to see all their multifaceted sides, and that includes their shit days, their days where they're grumpy and their emotions are fucked up, and maybe they're swearing a little bit more. So like, that's where I don't think that self-love is about self. I think that one can look inward for a long fucking time, and one can be like, I love myself, and I can read all the self-improvement, and it's shit. It's all bullshit. Do not get me wrong. There are pieces of it that can be helpful, maybe to not cover oneself with so much makeup, not to hide your beauty, but to really be okay with being a little bit different, being okay with having a very unique look, and maybe embodying it more so in healthier outlets of, you know what? I look shitty today, and I don't care. I walked outside and I had a berry mustache because I didn't look in the mirror. Should I have been embarrassed? Perhaps. It's just about learning that there's no solid version of oneself, for the self is always changing, the universe fluid. The only thing that ever appears to be consistent within the universe is that the universe is changing. You is always changing. So why on earth would you be able to practice any kind of self-love when you're simply not the same being? Maybe it's your behavior. Maybe you're being a bit of a goose. Maybe you know you're being an asshole. So maybe it's about holding oneself accountable within all that. Maybe you're acknowledging that you're projecting your own insecurities onto somebody else, and they're confidently just embracing themselves. They are so content with who they are. And that rather than celebrate those differences of maybe a different skin color or a different hairstyle or whatever it may be, you're picking them apart because you're upset with your own appearance, your own inward, and that's not a reflection of the other person whatsoever. But would that not be a reflection of oneself? So why are we picking apart people? Why are we so reactive in our day-to-day? Why do we like to listen to the demons in our head? And don't get me wrong, you're gonna have moments where the demons are active. There's simply no way to fully eliminate the ego. There are ways to help, of course. And again, grain of salt, what works for some doesn't work for all. It could be medications, it could be psychotherapy, it could be CBT, it could be a multitude of ways to look inward. But I think it's not about looking inward. It's not about meditating for XYZ amount of hours in a day. It's about learning to just celebrate the flaws, the quirks, because perfect simply doesn't exist. And to try to fit into any kind of cookie cutter frame box is not possible. You're not meant to live in a box. You're not meant to be defined by some societal standards that simply are impossible to meet. Because I think social media is one that can be used for good, and I think social media is one that misconstrues any version of truth, because we don't really know what the fuck truth is. Truly, if you think about it, what is truth? How are we supposed to distinguish what is truth? Because what may be true for one person is not true for another, and that's why I'm trying to leave this open-ended. There isn't simply one way to be. There isn't simply one way to you know? Just be you. So who is you? What is it that you're passionate about? What is it that you really enjoy within your values? Are you a good friend? Are you making the active effort to do what's best for you? Are you charitable? Are you working on being less ego-driven and less egocentric and filled by all this propaganda of greed, ideologies, and comparison being the absolute thief of joy? I think the only reason one should compare is to see what they can be doing differently, what they can be doing better. How can I embody this person who I look up to? So, what is it that works for you for self-love? What is it? Is it something inward? Is it something as simplistic as saying, I like my eye color? Is it practicing loving oneself when you don't like how you're being? Maybe you're sleep deprived. Maybe you're sick. Maybe you're going through the ringer of everything imaginable, and maybe the internet is getting to you. And rather than say, I don't care, because that's a fucking lie and you know it, you're honest with yourself and you say, I don't care as much. I respect myself enough to walk away, and I will block those who have no intention but taking from me in this greedy, greedy world. Establishing boundaries where you can love. Is that something you can practice within that self-love? To just maybe work on impressing your younger self and your older self, and simultaneously knowing that you can't possibly know either outcome, because isn't the memory itself a little bit shoddy? How can one remember every single phase of childhood? How can one possibly know whom their future self is going to grow up to be? You can have a game plan, you can have a timeline, you can have some kind of long-term goal. You could die tomorrow, love. So why are you trying to steal that from yourself with the comparison thief of bullshittery? If you don't like who you are, isn't that something that you can change? Isn't that something that you can work upon and improve upon and constantly rebrand the concept of you? So who is you really at your core? Who are you? What is it that you value? What is it that makes your soul light up? What is it that you really, really value in others? What is it that, like, I don't think self-love is one that is really ever fully obtainable. I think that it's one that we can play with, we can toy with, and I think to think of oneself in a bit of a more loving way can turn into something of a bit of a, let's say, call it what it is, call a spade, narcissistic tendencies. My goodness. Learning to love your differences rather than learning to, like, I don't think self-love has a set destination. I don't think that there's a right or a wrong way to do it. And I don't think that me, a stranger on the internet, telling you to do it one way or another is going to have some definitive breaking point. I can only guide you. And even then, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. So maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's part of self-love. It's just accepting that we don't know what we're doing. Nobody knows what we're doing here. We're just figuring it out as we go. We're learning to evolve. We're learning to grow. And we're learning to be less stuck in our ways and less fixed within a concept that was maybe forged in years prior. What is that negative bias that you tend to hold that you need to let go of, you need to release? And how can you be practicing countering that? Because isn't that where growth comes from pushing those boundaries, from going into the unknown? Do you have misinformation about people who are nothing like you, perhaps? I'm not going to pinpoint a specific place or time or destination. I simply don't know you, but I know that we all have these biases that have been ingrained through childhood, through society, through non-existent, real, unrealistic expectations of this is how it is, when there's no one way for things to be. Everything is ever expanding and the universe is always changing. The world, the planet is so quick. And I think that that's one thing that technology gets right, is it's constantly evolving. And yes, it can be confusing in all of this. And that's the thing, is that learning to embrace others and to love others who are vastly different than oneself is how we get there. We find that inner peace. We don't have to be best friends with the stranger who wants nothing to do with us. Maybe they're stuck in their judgmental ways, and we don't have to go out of our way to chase those who want nothing to do with us. It's more about flow. It's more about taking the steps and making the active effort to be curious. Why are you like this? Why am I like this? Why are we here on this gorgeous little planet? And why am I having a shit day? Why am I letting a shit day define who I am as a person? Why am I not just removing myself from whatever is creating that shit and saying, fuck it? Doing the things that I love. Maybe it's getting tattoos, maybe it's getting piercings, maybe it's traveling, maybe I don't know what you like. I don't know you. I simply don't. But it's learning to just be content with the things that one cannot change about self, and maybe making an active effort where one can. Maybe making the conscientious effort to not attack one's flaws, in which they've repeatedly explained their own discomfort within those flaws. Don't pick apart somebody who's already picking apart themselves. Try not to make others feel small. Why would we do that? We are sentient beings. We are gods in human fleshes. And I'm not trying to make us sound bigger than we are, because at the same time, we're just small little specks of existence, and it's just a blip. There's nothing in this world that is stagnant, except maybe mindset itself. And isn't that what half the experience is just learning to be, learning to exist? Isn't that a weird one on its own? Have you ever just fully existed? Have you ever just been here, now, present, not running from your thoughts? Feeling the sun on your face. Feeling this moment with a loved one. Really hearing them through all the chatter in the skull, and being there for them, helping them when you can, while still placing your own needs first, love, because you have needs and you deserve to have them met. Have you slept today? Have you hydrated? Are you acknowledging that you're overheating in the sun right now? Maybe you're getting the hot flashes. Maybe you have a little bit of extra to work with. That's okay. We all have our baggage. So what is that baggage that you keep feeling as though it's holding you back, as if it's something that is not an addition to you, but rather a burden of you? It's simply not. It's just part of you. So I release you from your burdens. I release you from the shame cycle. And you don't need my permission, love. You never did. That was always within you. So let that go. If you don't like the behavior, you can change it. And if you don't like the behavior of others, you can step away. And then call yourself out when you're being a goose. That's a huge one. You're gonna fuck up. I'm gonna fuck up. We're all fucking up together all the time. It's just about making the effort to fuck up less and not skidding so hard and not shaming ourselves for the spiral of whatever it may be, whatever that addiction is, whatever that unhealthy pattern is that you keep repeating. So, I don't think love of the self variation has any one set destination, and I think that it's more so about learning to embrace the consistent change and not trying to fit in any kind of box while doing so. It's being flexible and fluid and curious and excited and wondrous about every little experience that comes our way, and to just acknowledge that we're gonna have shit days. That's kind of part of the humanity thing, and that's okay. We do what works for us. We journal about it. We create art out of misery and suffering. We just sleep it off. Sometimes that's all you need. You just need to sleep it off for the day. Tomorrow will be kinder. I know that you can be kinder. And I love your differences. I love how attentive you are. I love those quirks that you've been taught to hide. I love that extra curvature that you have. I love that you're asymmetrical. I love that you're not fitting into some kind of cookie cutter box. I love that you go out of your way to try to lighten up a room whenever you enter it. And I love, love, love you, whoever you are at this point in time right now. And I'm gonna love you when you're older. I loved you when you were younger. And it doesn't matter who I am, because at the end of the day, I love you regardless of what you're going through. And I need you to love yourself. And I'm not gonna get emotional about it, or I'm gonna try not to. But I love that you feel in a world that is so desensitized. And I love that even though they don't care, you care. You are still making the active effort, and you are the chosen one, however that looks to you. So create, explore, go on that self-discovery quest, and know that we're all figuring this out as we go. Know that there's no set point. There's no right or wrong way to do things. It's just about figuring out healthier ways to do things. Maybe you just need to go outside today. Maybe you just need to disconnect from all that noise, the noise in your brain, the fear of others judging you, their projections, whatever the fuck it is. Okay, so you shat talk yourself for a second. You said something not so nice about yourself. Okay, that's okay. It's gonna happen. Just try not to do it again, love. And then just step away when the energy is off. Step away. Maybe you need to take a break from yourself. Maybe you just need to escape. And maybe it's okay to have some not so great habits. Maybe you need to watch Shrek on repeat, or Harry Potter, or whatever that show is that you watch on repeat to try to function. That's okay too. It's not harming anybody. Just take a step back, take a breather. And now, because my body is telling me that I need to take a breather, know that I love you. Know that whatever you are going through, you will get through this. You have survived 99% of your shitty days. So let's make it a good one. I love you. It's time to love yourself. Oh, my legs. Oh, my arm. All of it.